All right, welcome to another episode of the Big J Little J Show. This is the Duke Clemson recap, and we'll give you a little Duke UConn preview. Coming to you a little late. Look, college basketball season's here. Schedule didn't align Monday. Connor had to go to Wake, cover Wake Forest basketball. Last night, Duke, Texas, we're in Charlotte. Connor and I both were there on top of my day job. Just didn't align to where we're recording Wednesday. This should be out Wednesday night. If not, I'll fire my producer, which is me. But we're going to get started for Duke Clemson. That was a hell of a win. Duke, first time in 45 years, Connor. But before we get into that, talk about our sponsors. First one, Legacy Safe. Website is legacysafe.info. Legacy Safe is a secure cloud-based platform for individuals, couples, and families tailored for organizing personal account information, legal documents, assets, and more. It is designed to provide individuals with reassurance that their affairs will be managed effectively once they have passed. Legacy Safe is a website that gives you the platform to have all your affairs in order. Again, the website is legacysafe.info. Legacysafe.info. Are you looking to buy or sell a home in North Carolina? Whether you're moving across town or across the state, Jacob Mann with eXp Realty is here to make your real estate journey smooth, strategic, and stress-free. From first-time buyers to seasoned investors, he knows North Carolina and how to get results. Connect with Jacob today at 336-266-9088 or on his Instagram at @the_real_estate_man with 2 N's. Let's make your next move, the best one yet. All right, Connor. Duke at Clemson. You and I were there. The few in the prep.
We get to talk 2-point conversion stuff.
We do get to talk 2-point conversion stuff. The one that we can agree on probably for this whole year. But we got a lot to cover before we get to that 2-point conversion. Just surreal for me, first off, as a Duke football fan, to be credentialed to be a media member in Death Valley, starting this podcast like 2 or 3 years ago when we were covering Duke's spring game, coming off of David Cutcliffe's corpse of a team and Mike Elko starting. It was just, really cool to see how much this has grown in the 3 years, and being able to be there with you and some other people covering Duke football to witness history as a Duke fan. I tweeted it and I meant it. I didn't care if Clemson was 0-7 or whatever the record would have been. If they were winless at home and Duke would have beat them, I'd still be proud that Duke won. And Duke made me eat crow. I said I was going to bet Clemson -3.5 because Duke had to prove to me they can win a big game, and boy, did they with the way they did.
Well, if those corrupt officials didn't have it out for Clemson and throw the game, then you would have covered.
Listen, that I don't even know what I want to say. Oh, that stadium was not that loud to me for like the whole game, but when that call happened, that was the loudest I've ever heard a football stadium, because the boos it was deep within all their souls when they were booing. And when they kept showing the replay, I was like, oh, that's bad, because they kept showing the end of the play. But then when ESPN finally showed the full play, it's like, oh, yeah, Quayshawn Brown was held from hike.
Yeah. If you want to start there, I thought it was more defensive holding than it was pass interference. I had been under the impression that defensive holding is 5 yards on a first down. I think it's 10 in college and 5 in the NFL. So if you want to say Duke wouldn't have scored from the 8 with a fresh set of downs, I don't know if I'm going to argue against that. I say this frequently. I tweet it occasionally. Losers do two things. And we're talking about both of them right here. Bitching about refs and dwelling on hypotheticals. So I thought it was a penalty. Whether it was the right version of the penalty, I don't really care. It was called. It was a hell of a game. It's the 8th time that I've been to Clemson in 8 years. I think it's 4 Wake football games, 1 Duke football game, 1 Wake basketball game, and 2 Duke basketball games. It's the first time I've covered the road team winning there. Duke under John Shire has not solved the Little John. Wake has never beaten Dabo, so that's out the window. seen some true clunkers in there, like a 52-3 game, but it was interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say to go like we'll backtrack for the whole experience, but we do need to lead off with the controversial call because I mean it was. I saw on Twitter like somebody made a comment. It was like that's not DPI. He was holding. It should have been called defensive holding. I was like, well, it's still an automatic first down. What do we complain? What are you talking about? You're defending. You're saying it's the wrong call, but no matter what, it would have been an automatic first down for Duke. I didn't understand. And then Dabo got fined for complaining about the officials. And then he complained about him again yesterday or whenever his presser was, Tuesday. So, yeah, yesterday. And it's just, Duke has made Dabo lose his mind. When Duke beat Clemson in Wallace Wade, he talked about how it was the weirdest game he's ever experienced. And then when
Dabo's no stranger to hyperbole.
Oh, I know. And then when they played this past game, they were like, this is the worst call I've ever seen. So he's had 2 I've evers in the 2 losses against Duke. The weirdest game I've ever seen and the worst call I've ever seen. And to your point, like him showing his ass, like gave Duke first and goal at the 3. And I'll give my dad credit on this because I didn't catch this live and I didn't really see anybody talking about it. It looked like Clemson let Duke score. Like it was just one guy kind of did like a half-ass tackle attempt on Shepard. And Shepard walked in, and it was very easy. It was very easy. And when my dad told me that, I was like, that does make sense because there's still 40 seconds left, and Clemson was averaging 25 yards a play, it seemed like, and all they had to do was get in field goal range. So I wouldn't have been shocked if Clemson was letting Duke score right there.
If it was, that's not what they've said because I think I saw something from either Dabo does something on Sundays and then does something else on Tuesdays. I can't remember which time he said it, but he said there was some kind of misassignment on that play. He said it was somebody was in the wrong spot. I thought Nate Shepard made a great play on the guy who was there. I can't remember if it was Woodaz or Brown, but it was one of those 2 stud linebackers they've got.
That's probably the case. That's probably the case. You saw Cooper Barkate wide open for 75-yard touchdown or whatever.
That was Avion Terrell biting on some eye candy. That was the 50-some yarder to Jeremiah Hazley on the last drive. That was safety and linebacker miscommunicating and coming way too far up the field. That's why I've told a couple people this. I think I mentioned to you. I've covered the ACC in some capacity for 13 years. It's the first time I've ever come away from saying that Clemson is a poorly coached football team under Dabo. They had some busts and some mistakes and some discipline stuff that was like, oh my God. Even in 21 when they weren't that good, even in 23 when they lost at Duke and fumbled a bunch of times. I still didn't come away from that game thinking they were a badly coached team. This team, man.
Yeah, Duke, Clemson could say 2 years ago it was a fluke win, and I wouldn't argue it. The way they fumbled inside the 5-yard line so many times, and Duke won the game. Yeah, sure, but you know what? Duke still won that game. To your point about poorly coached, what's so crazy about them being poorly coached is it's a head coach and a former head coach that are on the sidelines. Tom Allen, the defense coordinator, was Indiana's head coach, and there should never be that type of miscommunication consistently for Clemson's defense, not only in Duke's game, but this whole season. Like they have given up gashing plays. And Duke, again, I'm going to start from the top, Connor, because this is the point of emphasis. Duke's 4th downs, how aggressive Duke was from the opening drive to the end of the game. Like, it was as beautiful as aggressive play calling as a team could ever have. Your first drive, you go for twice on 4th downs, leads to a touchdown, and then your last play of the game, you're aggressive to go for the win on the road on a 2-point conversion, and you get it. Like, I love that Manny, Jonathan Brewer just did not flinch with the game plan of we're going to be aggressive, whether it's 4th and 7 at the 44 or it's going to be 4th and 2. The one that's the most underrated 4th down play was before halftime where Duke tied it up. It was 28-21. It's 4th and 2. Anderson Castle gets a handoff at the 41-yard line. If he gets stopped right there, Clemson's going to score. they're going to score. And Duke knew they had to score on that drive. And Anderson Castle, I tell you what, I might have to start calling him the silencer. Like when it's a big down and you're on the road and it's third and 2, 4th and 2, and the crowd's loud to get a stop, and he just runs over your defense to get a first down or break a long run, it quiets the crowd. And you saw it there. You saw it a couple of times. I like Anderson Castle. You know I love Anderson Castle. But that was a huge run that kind of gets overlooked in a game that had so many explosive plays. Just a little 2.5-yard run to keep the drive alive to end up with an explosive play to tie the game.
Yeah, I forgot all about that play. So
yeah,
I'm on board with it being overlooked.
Yeah. It has not been was not talked about, at least in my eyes.
Yeah. A part of this we have to talk about with all the fourth down decisions, though, right?
Special teams?
No. We can't. It feels like we do this thing where every time a team is aggressive and goes for a fourth down and gets it, we credit the coaching staff for having confidence in their players and how aggressive they were. And that's all good. I'm not taking away from that. But it's also an analytics decision. It feels like we only talk about the analytics of fourth down conversions and 2-point conversions when they fail.
I can agree to a point, but my also to defend it is, or to defend my point of view is, as much as Duke loves to be aggressive because they're like, hey, we trust the offense to get these yards. If it's 4th and 7 near midfield, you're also saying our defense cannot stop anything, and we need to keep this drive alive to keep going, because after the first two out of 3 drives, Clemson was scoring.
It's a different calculus when you have a quarterback like Darian Mensah.
I agree. That
if you
I agree
if
that
you have a 4-7 around midfield with last year's offense and last year's quarterback, you're not inclined to go for it. And last year's defense. If you have Darian Mensah with 4 receivers that you trust can get open in critical situations, plus 2 tight ends that you feel good about making contested catches in the middle of the field, you're so much more inclined to go for those.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, because I mean, Mensah you want to keep the ball in his hands, and that when you and I were sitting beside each other in the press box on Duke's last drive before the big play to Hazley, I told you, I was like, hey, I think Duke's gonna go for this on 4th down inside their own 10 or 15 or whatever it was, because I was like, I was like, what, 4.5 minutes you said?
4-ish, yeah. They took over on that drive with 5-something on the clock. So
I was like, this is 4-down territory, because the defense will not get a stop to get the ball back. So Duke has to go for it if they don't get this 3rd down conversion. Obviously, it was a moot point because Hazley broke off a huge run after catch. And like you said, broken coverage. And Hazley had a great game, like the best game of his career, easily. I know he had 3 catches, but they're all 3 impactful catches.
He had, I don't know what his catch number was, but he had, I think it was 82 yards before the game. So 82 yards on the season. He had 83 against Clemson.
3 for 83. Yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy. Barkate 6 for 127, but obviously the 77-yard one.
Yeah, the easiest 77 yards Cooper Barkate will ever have, where it looked like he put it on cruise control at around the 50.
Oh yeah, he started high stepping a little bit at like the 20-yard line for like 2 strides, and then he got it back and scored, and then did the Thriller dance, which was fantastic, right on cue for Halloween. But Coyshawn Brown, we haven't talked about him yet. He was phenomenal. His catches, 6 for 80, 2 touchdowns. I asked him after the game about, like, he just looked like he was in that zone that an athlete has, like a shooter has in basketball. He had that against Clemson, where he caught that one pass on that last drive that should have been a pick 6. Mensah threw it behind him, and he had to go one-handed with his left hand and got 4 yards out of it. But the linebacker was there with both hands ready to pick it off and go the other way, or safety, whoever was guarding him. And Queso he looked so comfortable out there in the open field, and it was so inexcusable. It made Dabo almost have a heart attack on the sideline when he scored that touchdown before halftime. Because how can you let a guy just run a seam route up the middle? And when I asked him about it, Queso said that he just did like a 1-2 step and went going, and the guy bit on the 1-2. And Queso's one of the faster guys on the team and on the field. and he just ran right by him.
To me, it looked like they beat quarters coverage with a deep throw.
Yeah.
A big talking point last week, if I understand the youths correctly.
You did. You're right. It was on Twitter. I forgot who was talking about it, but
the former last chance U coach,
Jason Brown. Yeah, Coach Brown, whatever his name is.
Seems like kind of a weird guy.
Level-headed guy. Yeah, Coach Brown. When I think of him, I think of how level-headed he is.
It's always interesting to see the people that come after Mina Kimes, and it's like how many times does she have to prove that she knows ball?
Yeah, I know. But quarters coverage, right over top. Mensah also hit him in stride, and Mensah was all in one. Obviously, I mean, 27 of 41, 361, and 4 touchdowns. Like, what does he have? 21 touchdowns and 2 picks on the season now.
My joke at halftime was he needed. God, he didn't have a passing touchdown in the second half. He needs 5 touchdowns to tie Duke's single season passing touchdown record, which was, of course, set last year by Malik Murphy. And I thought there was a chance he'd get there by the end of the game at Clemson, the way Duke's offense was going. But
I did. Yeah. I did too.
Offense went into a shell. Like the interesting thing, and I was texting you about this when I was on the PFF grades for Duke's offense. Duke's offense did not have these sterling, like you put up 46 points at Clemson type offensive numbers that you'd expect, because they played a little bit of an inconsistent game. They were hot to start. They went into a lull. They had a really good 2-minute drive before the half, which was aided by a 4th down conversion and a blown coverage. It's not like they marched down the field getting chunk play after chunk play. Their points before the last minute of the second half were on a kick return and a drive that stalled out, and they had to get a field goal, which shout out Todd Polino, who won a kicking competition in the off week. Manny told us it would be open between him and Cosme Salas, who is an absolute unit out there, by the way. He had a kickoff or 2. First time seeing that all year. But Duke's offense, like, they had the drive after Clemson went up 45-38, right? They had the 75-yarder to break the 38-38 tie.
Mm-hmm.
Duke's offense, I think, had 1 first down, and then like it had a 3rd down throwaway by Darian Mensah. He was scrambling and threw it away, and it's like, oh, well, they're punting the ball back to Clemson with time on the clock. I think, trying to remember the score without looking at the box score. The yellow legal pad stuff has been put in the pile already.
I'm looking at it right now.
I think that Clemson possession was the first possession of the game that somebody took the ball with a multi-score lead, or maybe it was Clemson's first possession taking the ball with a lead. I think that's the wording I'm looking for.
Wait, you're saying that Clemson took the ball with the lead? It was the first team to do that in the game?
Not the first team. That was the first time they had.
Oh, yes.
Because I think they scored to make it 28-21. Duke took the ball.
Scored.
And is that when Duke had the 2-minute drive to tie it up at halftime?
Yeah, 50 seconds.
Clemson takes the lead with a touchdown in the 3rd quarter. Duke returns the kickoff for a touchdown to tie it. Clemson has a 8-minute drive that ends with a chip shot field goal, and then Duke's next drive was the field goal drive.
Yep.
So that drive from Clemson, or that possession from Clemson, which started around midfield, was the first time they took the ball with a chance to like effectively put the game on ice, and Duke's defense gets a stop.
It ended at midfield. Yeah, they started at the 15-yard line, but it was too explosive. It was a 19-yard pass, 14-yard pass, and then so it was 1st and 10 to 48, just like that. So
gotcha.
I can see why you would think it started at midfield, because 2 explosive plays right away. And then I told you when they got the 3rd down stop on that drive, Manny Diaz himself saw something in the defense where he was doing the signals on the sidelines where they're checking out of whatever they're doing on 3rd and 6, and Clemson threw that quick pass that killed Duke. Obviously, Moore had that 77-yard touchdown because he threw a quick pass and Duke wasn't ready for it. And it looked like they were getting right back to that. Manny Diaz and the other staff did something on the sideline with their hands. Duke adjusted, and then they got no yards. Clemson got no yards and had a punt. And then There goes the game-winning drive. Like, again, I don't care if Clemson was 3-4 going in this game. When Duke goes 94 yards in Death Valley, Duke football, that is impressive. That is unheard of. That is awesome. And yeah, I mean, I'm still on cloud nine. I know we're recording later than normal in the week, but like I went to bed basically with people go to bed with white noise. I go to bed just watching Duke Clemson highlights of Saturday, just listening to David Shoemate because the TV calls just didn't do it. What's his name? Steve
Adazio. He's going to tell you that guys are being dudes and dudes are being guys. And
great clip. Steve Adazio's clip of guys was better than this. Guys being dudes. Great clip. Not a great guy on air. Like the pass interference call that we talked about lead off with Queso. I mean, right away he's screaming on the broadcast, "Oh, that's offensive pass interference. That's OPI." And then he tripled down every time they showed the replay. And I'm like, all right, well, I need to listen to Duke's like broadcast because this is just now you got everybody upset. Dabo probably watched that to sleep. It was like, oh, Adazio was right that this was OPI. And the whole TV broadcast I didn't like really at all. But it was a fantastic win. Duke now has to pivot to UConn, which we'll get into in a little bit. But more I want to talk about this game, Connor, is let's see, the fourth downs, 5 for 5. Oh, Samir Hagans. We're 22 minutes in. Samir Hagans, the man of the hour, like on the stat sheet, it's hilarious because on the stat sheet, what he had one catch for negative 2 yards.
2 yards. I think he had a couple
3
catches.
Yeah, hold on. I've got it right here. He had Duke receivers 3 catches for 2 yards. And that wasn't even the least amount of receiving yards on the team. Do you know who had the least amount of receiving yards? This is a great trivia question for people back home.
Oh, had me in the first half. Dial up that gif. Darian Mensah had minus 15 or something like that.
Minus 11 when his pass got batted in the air and he caught it. That was the only other guy. That was the only one that was less than Samir Hagans. But Samir, kickoff return, he's unbelievable with the ball in his hands as a specialist. Like good things happen when number 2 has the ball in space. And he almost broke one against Georgia Tech to start the second half. He got tackled like at the 45, and you could tell he really wanted this one, and he just followed Jaden Moore. It was really cool. Again, from a Duke perspective, when you watch it on TV, nobody is in the frame when both of them are at the 50-yard line. I don't know if I've ever seen a kickoff return that clean to where there is not – he didn't have to juke, break a tackle, nothing. Just clear space for 50 yards.
And that's where the other part of it is, to give myself a little confirmation bias pat on the back. That's a poorly coached team that winds up giving up that type of return. I mean, Duke does good things. Clemson does bad things. Those types of plays don't happen without both of those things happening. The shitty part of that play is the block that springs Samir through the hole to end it, basically, when he's still on Duke's side of the 50, was Elliott Shopper doubling back to make not a crackback block, but it's like he's heading upfield and he sees that there's one more guy that might actually be able to make a play, and he kind of twists. And as he's twisting, I watched the replay. I hated doing it, but I watched the replay like 15 times to figure out which one of his legs was injured, because you can't tell if it's the left or the right. I think it's the right, and it just kind of bends backward, and you can tell he's hurt because instead of making more of a block, he gets leveled because he's trying to grasp his leg that is just I don't know what the exact injury is, but I'm guessing some ligament tore in there. So he's grasping at that as he's getting decked by somebody, but he still makes a block. He still he accomplishes the goal. That's going to hurt Duke's linebacker depth in the future. They're down now Nick Morris and Elliott Shopper for the season. We could see a true freshman in there. Asher Wasserman, I believe, is the name. He might be in there. More than anything, it'll be more snaps for Bradley Gompers and some possible middle linebacker snaps for Trey Freeman.
this is where everybody wants going into the season. It's like, hey, Bradley Gomper is going to get playing time because highly touted recruit's going to finally break it into the rotation at Duke. Well, now he is because their guys keep going down. I wanted to give a shout out to Bryce Davis too. Look, former Clemson commit, had that pass breakup. I have to find that clip. I've been waiting for like the full video to come on YouTube so I can get the clip. Him drop back and covers about 15 yards and almost picking the ball off against Klubnik for a defensive unit that just got obliterated, either the run via or pass. And they're already missing Kamari Robinson, and then Shopper goes down. Trey Freeman's been battling injuries.
Landon Callahan went down for a portion of the second half.
Yeah, Callahan went down. You're already without Terry Moore. Speaking of, let's just go right into it. Monday's presser, did you ask any update on Terry Moore?
I wasn't there, but somebody did, and there was no update. It's just still Manny saying it's basically he's progressing, but he's not progressing enough to the point where they can put him on the field. This is the week that, there's two lines of thought. There's one that you would want to get him out there and get him whatever snaps you can if he's healthy enough to do it. But there's the other one where Duke has 4 games left on its schedule, and this is the one that matters the least. Like, this is the one that, this game against UConn does not count in ACC standings, and Duke is 4-1 in the ACC. They have a legitimate chance to be in Charlotte, especially because the one team in front of them in the standings in the loss column, Duke plays at home next weekend. And that's a huge advantage.
Yeah, we talked about it a few weeks ago where I was like, somebody said Duke was going to do something and then they'll drop the game to UConn. They'll finish 3-1 with the loss to UConn. I was like, sign me up for that 10 out of 10 times. It still reigns true right now. Like, I know it'd suck, and Duke would be 8-4, and people are like, oh, they should be 9-3. Why would you want that? Because they're 7-1 in the ACC, and that hasn't been done maybe ever. Like, obviously, I'm tongue in cheek with that, but 7-1 in the ACC, I don't care. I don't care about the national narrative of the ACC. If Duke freaking football is 7-1 in the ACC, sign me up.
And I did on the website that I ran through a lot of them to see, and I feel semi-confident saying if there's a 3 or 4-way tie between teams in the atop the ACC, so many teams 7-1. I did not find any scenarios within that include a 7-1 Duke that doesn't go to Charlotte. They would be in the top 2 in just about every calculation that I did, even if they're tied with Georgia Tech, who would have the head-to-head. But when it's a 3 or more way tie, it goes to common opponent type stuff.
That's great to know because, I mean, that NC State game just
really
hats off to it.
It really helped that they beat NC State, and that NC State is the one that gave Georgia Tech its first loss.
It is very funny that NC State has beaten the 2 best teams in the ACC, and one has counted for a conference win, the other has not. That's crazy. It's like they've beaten UVA and Georgia Tech, but obviously the conference record doesn't show it. But hell of a win by Duke, dating back to the NC State game. Doran, that's a massive win. I think Haynes King threw for like 400 yards and ran for 100 against NC State, and they still lost. Like, that's just crazy. It's just crazy. I want to talk about Musa Kane. I call him 3D, but might have to go change his nickname to the closer, because here is a fun fact for you again.
Land on nicknames and stick with them.
Well, you know what? You telling me 3D is great, by the way, because Duke does get stops when he's on the field. But closer versus NC State on the last play of the game, he ended it with an interception. Versus Cuse, he had the pass deflection on the 4th down, the end of the game. Cal, he had the pick to end the game. And versus Clemson, he's the one that recovered the fumble at the end of the game on the lateral.
Oh, wow.
So literally the last plays of every game, Musa Kane is the guy that has the ball or deflected the ball to end the game. So he literally is like the closer for Duke.
I guess I can get there. I mean, the Cal game was a 24-point game.
Well, so was
Syracuse was worse.
No, I know, but I'm literally saying he is the closer. Like, he is the guy that just mops it up. Like, he's just going to come in and he makes the last play. That's all I'm saying.
I'll give you that. My thought with Musa is I'm in awe of a guy that plays, I think it was 21 snaps at corner for the first 7 games of the season, based on what PFF has him lined up with. The 21 snaps he played against Clemson were all at corner. That's why I tried to make as big of a deal as I could about Kamari Robinson possibly missing this game and then him missing this game, because Clemson lost Bryant Wesco, who was their best perimeter receiver. That, to me, told you long before kickoff, Clemson was going to ride Antonio Williams. All of their explosive plays through the air were probably going to come through Antonio Williams. Even the ones that went to other guys were because of the gravity Antonio Williams would get. And he's their slot guy. We know Duke loves to line up Chandler Rivers in the nickel spot and line him up against the slot receiver. But Duke's ability to do that is handcuffed when they've basically had 3 corners that they've played all year with Chandler, Kamari, and Landon Callahan. So without Kamari, do you slide Chandler over and move your number 4 corner into a spot against a stud like TJ Moore, or who's the other one out there? Is it Smith? Tristan Smith? Who's the other perimeter guy?
I think you're right, Tristan Smith. Yeah, I'm looking at the box. Yeah, Tristan Smith had 6 for 79.
So Duke's calculus was, do you trust Musa Kane enough to put him on the field in those situations so that you can get the matchup you want with Chandler on Antonio Williams? And they did. I mean, Musa played 21 snaps. He played the Landon Callahan role with Landon bumping up into the starting lineup. The other person to shout out is Jaden Francois. Played every single defensive snap. He was Duke's only defensive player on the field for every single snap. And that has not been the case for most of the games, because when they slide Chandler to nickel, that's who's the nickel in the base defense. So he's coming off the field. He played every single snap against Clemson and played well.
That shocks me. Actually, they played every single snap, because I remember seeing Mekhi Jones and Pelachata in playing the safety spot. So maybe they just moved Francois over closer to the line of scrimmage when I was looking at the safeties, because that's when I looked at you. I was like, oh, they got the true freshmen playing Mekhi Jones and Pelachata, or the deep safeties. And
well, they're on the field for Stone and Weaver.
Yeah. I want to talk about the defense. Like, we're 33 minutes in now, and talk about the defense of just what is there a way Duke can solve the defensive issues? Again, you and I had these conversations. We're just making it now public of Duke was conservative because, like we talked about, you said that Duke wants everything in front of them, and which I agree, because I agree to a point. Where the point is when you play so conservative and then they throw a screen pass and go 77 yards, which NC State had against Duke. Hold on. Let me get my point out. When you play that conservative and Cal's running screens and they're getting 12-yard, Tulane, Cal, they were throwing short screens. NC State broke a long touchdown against a conservative play call, play in front. Like, the whole premise of Manny Diaz and Jonathan Packey's defensive scheme is high pressure rate, sack rate, aggressiveness, get in the backfield, TFLs. And when you try and backtrack that, I feel like this is what happens. You just give up. I would rather you give up big explosives when you go with what you preach. Like, if Callahan gets burnt one-on-one, we've seen Duke DBs get burnt all year, whether it's in front of them or behind them, so be it. But I want to see pin your ears back and go after them rather than just sit back. And then here is a 3rd and 6, 15 yards, guys wide open in a soft zone. Like, I would rather you play man-to-man and you get burnt on the man-to-man than give up a soft zone deep shot.
16 yards doesn't get you beat. 75 gets you beat. And you know what you can't do? You know what plays you cannot pin your ears back and send 5 or 6 guys at the quarterback?
What?
Screens.
Well, jam them. Play at the line.
You still have to tackle at the line, and that was the problem. That was when I was trying to cut you off there when you got first started rolling.
You have to let me go. You gotta let me go, then you can peel it back.
You ask me how do they solve the issue? They solved it once already this year. That, I think, is the most frustrating part for Duke. They tackled like shit for the first 3.5 games of the season, and then the second half against NC State, they started tackling. And then the trips to Syracuse and Cal, they started tackling. Even the Georgia Tech game, they lose and they give up 27 points. For 3 quarters, they tackled really well. The tackling was not an issue for this, as you're looking at it now, the middle swath of the season. They tackled really well. And that's why I think it's so frustrating to see them give up a 75-yarder when they don't even get a hand on the guy because they can't get off blocks and because there's a miscommunication between Caleb Weaver and somebody else. You saw it. Who was it? Caleb Weaver and who?
It was Chandler Rivers and Caleb Weaver. Chandler was like pointing to Caleb to get down and at the snap, and Caleb just didn't get down quick enough. And then the offensive lineman pulled and buried him, and then Antonio Williams went untouched, or Moore went untouched.
Yeah. But like, that's my main point here is they fixed the issue once this year. They have to fix it again. They have to tackle again. I think PFF.
That's a good point.
I don't know what the Jonathan Packey number for missed tackles is. It's always a little higher than PFF, and PFF had him with 14 missed tackles. And you're going to miss tackles. It's going to happen. For years, I've equated it with making errors on a baseball field. Like, good players will miss tackles because they'll be in position to make plays more often than bad players. Just like good defensive players in baseball, they still make errors, but it's because they can get to more balls. It's more about how many runs do you save, how well do you execute the easy ones, basically. And that's where Duke was a great tackling team last year, and I think they averaged less than 10 missed tackles a game. And this year, it's just come and gone. And it's come and gone for huge chunks of games. Like, they did not tackle well in any of the first 3 games, it felt like.
That's good.
They did not tackle well for most of the Clemson game.
Good counter, Connor. This is Big J. That's Big J stuff. And mine was a little J rant. That's what makes us so unique. Because I'm like, holy shit, just get somebody in the area. And then you're like, well, they tried to be aggressive and then they just can't wrap up. And that is also true. So it's a combination of giving up big plays in a zone and big plays trying to be aggressive. At the end of the day, Clemson had almost 600 yards of total offense, averaging 12 yards a play or something. Like, I'm exaggerating that number, but I'm exaggerating the number. It was 11 yards per pass and 5 yards per rush, and which is still crazy for a team that a wide receiver was the running back, and Randall had a good game rushing. And Manny said at the end of the game, I'm pretty sure it was the end of the game, that he was disappointed in like the run defense. He thought that Duke had like the edge in the run defense, and a lot of assignments and tackling.
That was the story in the first half. Was I think Clemson's first touchdown, I think they threw the ball pretty well. And if I'm remembering the game script correctly, their second and third touchdown drives or their third and fourth ones, I don't think it was all 3 of them, but it was at least 2 of the last 3 in the first half. They just drove the ball right down Duke's throat. They didn't even have to throw it. They didn't even have to have the threat of throwing it, really. I mean, it was an offensive line that everybody that pays attention to Clemson, like Eric McLean and Larry Williams, who does a great job on Tiger Illustrated, they have hammered Clemson's offensive line for being so overrated this year. That was supposed to be one of the strengths of their team, and it has been anything but. And all of a sudden, they're lining up against a Duke defensive front that we think is really good, right? Like Wesley Williams, VJ Anthony, Aaron Hall, they've all played at all ACC caliber seasons. Yeah, and Duke was getting blown off the ball. Like, Adam Randall is a big load, and you want to make him earn it, and you want to get to him before he gets going, and he's 5 yards down the field before he's contacted. What are you laughing at, big load?
Yeah, you said it. I mean, hey, it's fine. It's just going to be clipped on Twitter, but it's Adam Randall and his big load. I'll tell you what, drove right through the teeth of the defense. And I was looking at the play
We're
chart as you were.
gonna just pause.
As,
Just all the
no,
pause
we're
here.
not. We gotta push through now. We just gotta push through.
Oh, you challenged something earlier like Shire and lost our timeout.
Yeah, that was a classic last night, challenging the timeout. I was looking at what you're talking about. They're running the ball it was their third and fourth touchdown. ESPN app sucks. My God, I'm trying to read this, and the pull down screen is in front of everything and it won't go away. All right, but yes, when they made it 21-21, they started the drive with a 14-yard pass, but then after that, from the Clemson 46 all the way down to the end zone, that was for the touchdown was a run. And then when they went up 28-21, yeah, it was just Randall. Antonio Williams kept getting like some jet sweeps, and he was breaking loose, and he does it all for this Clemson team. But what Manny said was true to the media, and what he said in the locker room to the guys. That great video about Duke football, by the way. But he just said that to see Duke beat a team at their best, it just shows how good this Duke team can be. And he's not saying that people are going to be like, well, Clemson's 3-5 now. He's not talking about that. This was the best Clemson's offense has looked all year, and almost had 600 yards. Couldn't stop them. Duke had to resort to drawing plays in the grass again, like they did at Cal, and they got that one stop to kick a field goal, and they got that one punt to get the ball back, and then they got just enough time, ran off the clock for Clemson not to be able to get in field goal range. So Duke stole a win, which is great. And I told you during the third quarter when I looked at the lopsided box score, I'm like, Duke's going to win this game because they have lost 2 or 3 games where they've controlled the box score. So they're due for one to win the box score. And then you talk about the graphic, did we get beat that bad? And Duke and Clemson were the far left, and Duke was all the way down. So that was, look, Duke deserved to have a break like that in conference play. And I'm glad it was against Clemson. So
Duke got outgained 560 to 439.
Mm-hmm.
You know what really blows up that stat sometimes?
What?
When you have a 100-yard kick return.
Oh, yeah, because Duke didn't get the ball.
Yeah. They have a blocked punt too.
Yeah, they had a blocked punt that landed around midfield. Yeah, and that was the start of the second half. There was another play, I can't remember it right now, Connor, but that I was like, this is a pivotal spot in the game, but I cannot remember. There's so many of them, right? There are so many to be almost 100 points total in this game. It just felt
that's kind of always what you're going to get with Clemson, even in a down year for them. You're always going to have these big play moments. It might be true of every game, and I'm just adding a little aura to Clemson, but it always the 22 game that they played at Wake that went to double OT, like you could have rattled off 20 of the most important plays from that game before you even get to the overtime periods. So
I did not realize that I would love to see a box score that's similar to this one, to where Duke was 3 of 14 on third down, Clemson was 3 of 10, and both teams were 100% on fourth down. I mean, that's crazy. That's just ACC, baby. ACC football, conference of chaos. And
one nugget on the third down stuff, because Virginia's next 2 games are against the dual beat here. Wake is up in Charlottesville, and then Virginia goes to Durham next weekend. Virginia is 50% on third downs, so that's, I think, top 20 in the country. And then they're 28% third down rate stop, which is like top 10 lowest in the country. So
the last thing I just want to talk about before we get to the Clemson or to the UConn preview, which will be brief because I wanted to focus on the Clemson game, is the last play before the lateral, fourth down. Vincent Anthony Jr., I love you. I appreciate you, but you got to stop trying to jump off sides on pivotal plays of games where the NC State one, thank God they didn't call you offsides. I think another one happened in like a third down, like one of the games in between the NC State game and this one. I'm drawing a blank on it. And then 4th and 5 turns into a blessing in disguise because Cade Klubnik is running for the first down rather than just killing the play because he wasted 8 seconds scrambling to get 6 yards. Just BJ, don't do the Chris Rump where you're just trying to time the snap every time and like just stay back a half a millisecond on a fourth down. But luckily, it paid off because Cade Klubnik wasted so much time. But I don't want that to come back to bite Duke when Duke is down 2 points and the other team is going for it to try and ice the game. You jump off sides and then they can just kneel the clock out. Like just let the play happen. Besides that, I'm just filler right now, Connor. Because when I saw that live, I'm like, oh my god, this is what are we doing? But
it's another moment for me to push my agenda that Clemson's a poorly coached team with Cade Klubnik not just clocking the ball and saving the time because the time is so much more valuable than the yardage at that point.
Last thing on Clemson, it's a cult. Quote me on it. Ridiculous. You told me the expectations to have before the pregame rituals that they had, and it lived
didn't believe me.
I didn't believe you. It was let's go through it together. So hold on, let me set the stage for everybody that never been to a Clemson game. You just go to Duke games. It is what moment? Not even moment of silence. That's basketball. You have
they did. I think it's God Bless America.
No, not Clemson yet. Not Clemson yet. Just a normal Duke game. It's just national anthem. It's just national anthem and your alma mater song. At Clemson,
starter introductions,
right? But I'm saying like before the starter introductions, it is just those two things: national anthem, or alma mater song. At Clemson, it's God Bless America, a prayer, a national prayer over 100,000 people with a preacher preaching, the Pledge of Allegiance. The pledge of
that in a while, had you?
The Pledge of freaking Allegiance at a college football game, then the national anthem, then your alma mater song, and then hey, we can actually play a game now that we just had a church Sunday service.
No, not yet.
Oh, what happened? What did I miss? There was 5 things.
The buses driving to the other side of the stadium, and then Dabo and the team running down the hill, and
he lost a step on that, by the way. He did not look – that was the telltale sign Clemson was going to lose. He looked like he was limping down that thing.
Father Time is undefeated, man. I'm dragging ass because I got home last night at 3 a.m. and got up this morning to crank out some more content.
Yep, welcome to the content life. It's harder than coaching for Clemson football. So let's pivot, Connor. Duke, UConn. This is the weird non-conference game in November that we've always talked about since the beginning of the season. UConn is what? They're 6-3. Obviously, their schedule is not what Duke's has been. Duke is now a 9.5-point favorite. Holy hell, that's crazy. But UConn, one of their losses was at Syracuse, a healthy Syracuse, 27-20. In overtime. UConn should have won that game. We talked about it in our Syracuse preview. Yeah, but besides that, their only other Power 5 game they played was at Boston College. They won 38-23. I think they were 1-point underdogs in that game. They lost to Rice by 3, and then they beat UAB last game 38-19. So they played, they only played 3 Power 5 teams, and they're in the ACC: Syracuse, Boston College, and Duke.
Yeah. If I was going to say if Duke's attention is elsewhere, it shouldn't be. I don't get the gist that that's a concern. It's always a little bit in your mind when you're coaching 18 to 23-year-olds and they think about different shit for every hour. But I mean, this is a UConn team that Duke was up 17-0 on last year and then was trailing 21-17, and they had to come back and beat in Durham. This is a UConn team that you ready for the craziest number about this team? It's 1.
What?
They've turned the ball over once in 9 games.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Their quarterback has 22 touchdowns and no interceptions.
What's his name?
Are you trying to get me in trouble?
I'm trying to get myself not in trouble.
Joe Fagnano.
Thank you. Okay. I can – oh, see, I even had to knee my desk right there as I was trying to get comfortable because I was sweating that one out. But I know he was the quarterback last year too. Like, I know it was. And they have Sheldon Bell back who he is – or Skylar Bell. I said Sheldon Bell. Sheldon Bell is a former –
Yeah, there you go. I was wondering who Sheldon was.
Skylar Bell, and he's explosive. He had 50 for 860 yards last year and 5 touchdowns. This year, he has 74 receptions, almost 1,000 yards and 11 TDs. He is like that. He makes me nervous. He's quick. They average I think they're top 25 in scoring offense in the country, or maybe point or yards per game. One of the two. I think it's yards per game. And Skylar Bell he's a dude that I'm going to his game log last year when they played at Duke. He had 7 catches for 58 yards. And that doesn't seem like a lot, but 2 games later had 6 for 153. And at Syracuse last year, he had 10 for 113. And against Maryland, he had 6 for 141. So that was last year. And then this year, he's just went nuclear in games. He's 3 straight games, Connor, 3 straight games, 10 for 125, 8 for 158, 8 for 149, and coming off a 3 touchdown performance in the 8 for 149. He scares the living shit out of me.
If you keep going, I'm going to have to give you a co-byline for the 5 things to know about UConn that I'm about to work on this afternoon.
Oh, whoops.
Well, no, go ahead. Write it for me, please. Tell me about their defense. I need to learn up on their defense because
here's what you need to know about their defense is the over-under 66.5. Vegas is like, hey, you thought Duke and Clemson was going to be a high-scoring game? Well, guess what? It's going to get weird in Connecticut, and this is going to be, again, like a 50-40 game. I know, obviously, the over-under is 66.5, and I just gave you 90, but I think it's going to get weird, just like the Clemson game.
Well, you got to figure out if Danny Hurley has any recruits coming in this weekend.
Capture the flag, baby.
And that's still in the history of greatest deleted tweets ever.
Yeah, Duke pressured them to delete that. That was too good.
No, I looked it up. Duke is 18 in the country with 460 yards a game. Connecticut is 20th with 455 per game. The yards per play, which is always what Manny wants to talk about more than the just sheer volume of yardage. Mm-hmm. Duke is 6.92. UConn's 6.72. So these are 2 offenses that can go up and down the field, 2 quarterbacks that, I mean, good Lord, the combined touchdown and interceptions of these 2 quarterbacks is 43-2.
That's insane. I mean, statistically, it's probably the best matchup of the season.
I don't know if you're gonna you cannot find a better matchup than quarterbacks in this week that are statistically. I don't know if whoever's playing in the SEC is probably whatever, but yeah, it's 2 offenses that have supreme trust in their quarterback's ball security and the ability to move the ball up and down the field.
Yeah, I mean it's high scoring. And also, if UConn really is the measuring stick is hard to see if they're really a legit contending Power 4 type of team with the talent because they play so much G5 teams. So it's hard to engage to how good is this team, and then but to their defense, should have won at Syracuse with a healthy Syracuse. And then you did beat Boston College by 2+ touchdowns at BC as an underdog. And so,
yeah,
I know Boston College is
one. I don't know if they played again if they beat underdog.
Yeah. I mean, Boston College is probably arguably the worst Power 4 team in the country. I'm trying to think. I
don't know about Power 4.
Oh, no, because Oklahoma State exists. Oklahoma State is the worst. UNC was up there, but UNC are down there, and now they've passed Boston College.
Yeah, they're definitely the worst in the ACC.
Yeah, so I don't have much else on UConn because it's just hard. It's hard to gauge with looking at the stuff that the teams they've played besides the 2 ACC teams. Really, the one with Syracuse, and I think Fran Brown has showered in over a month. Or you think that's just a nice little bit that he had of
you're so obsessed with that man's shower schedule.
I told you. Well, he put it in my membrane of hey, I don't shower when we lose. Well,
the only time I think about it is when you bring it up.
You've lost 5 in a row. Your wife is leaving you because you smell like ass. Yeah. So that's a perfect way to just sum up this preview for Duke UConn is a Fran Brown reference of showering. It's going to get weird with the college football playoff as they came out before the Duke game last night when we were watching it as we were eating. I was eating my chicken tenders. You had a terrible looking cheeseburger, but
It was a good cheeseburger. It just wasn't enough food. My stomach was growling the whole way home.
But it was interesting to see where they put like Virginia's 14th. So Duke is playing the 14th best team in the country unless Virginia lose. They play this week or are they off?
I just told you they play a home game against Wake.
Oh yeah, sorry. So they're off.
Wow.
I'm just kidding.
Fighting Jake Dickerts are offended.
Wake really disappointed me with their effort against Florida State. I didn't watch a second of it, but that was looked at the box score like holy shit, 42-7 or whatever.
I think they really disappointed a lot of people with that one.
Yeah, that's insane. But look, that's all we got for today's episode. Sorry it was a couple of days later than normal. It'll be out tonight. Catch us next week. We'll recap Duke, UConn, and then we'll preview Duke versus Virginia.
Yeah, I'll have a firsthand look at Virginia going up to Charlottesville this weekend.